Imagine waking up in the year 2050 and realizing you will never die. No aging, no disease, no final goodbye. It sounds like a miracle, doesn't it? But what if I told you immortality was the moment humanity began to disappear? This is not just a story about the future. This is a story about what happens when death is deleted. The year was 2050. The world had already changed beyond recognition. Cities stretched into the clouds, glowing with neon lights and holographic advertisements. Artificial intelligence managed traffic, weather control systems prevented storms, and human organs could be printed in laboratories. But the biggest breakthrough came from a biotech giant called NeoLife Corporation. They announced something no one thought possible: a serum built with advanced nanotechnology, tiny machines smaller than cells, programmed to repair the human body from the inside. They regenerated damaged tissue. They eliminated cancer cells. They reversed aging at the molecular level. The first human trials were secret. Billionaires paid unimaginable amounts of money to become test subjects. Aging CEOs in their 70s walked into private clinics and walked out looking 30 years old. Their wrinkles faded. Their gray hair darkened. Their strength returned. Governments took notice. Soon, world leaders underwent the treatment. Military generals followed. Elite soldiers were injected with the serum, creating warriors who could recover from injuries in hours. Within 5 years, no one who had taken the serum had died. Not from illness, not from accidents, not even from organ failure. Hospitals began shutting down entire wings. Insurance companies collapsed. Funeral businesses went bankrupt. Cemeteries stopped expanding. At first, the world celebrated. News channels called it the end of death. Religious debates exploded across social media. Was this humanity becoming godlike, or was it crossing a forbidden line? Then the problems began. People were no longer dying, but they were still being born. Cities grew overcrowded. Apartments became smaller. Food prices skyrocketed. Water shortages intensified. Governments imposed birth restrictions, but black markets for childbirth permits emerged overnight. Young people started asking a dangerous question: if the old never leave, when do we get to live? University graduates couldn't find jobs because CEOs refused to retire. Political leaders held power indefinitely. Positions that once changed hands every decade were now locked for centuries. Frustration turned into protests. In megacities around the world, young crowds filled the streets with digital banners glowing in the night. They weren't protesting death. They were protesting eternal life. But overpopulation wasn't the worst consequence. The real change was quieter and far more terrifying. Psychologists began noticing unusual patterns among the immortal. Patients reported feeling less fear, less urgency, less empathy. When you know you have unlimited time, deadlines lose meaning, risks lose consequences, the emotional weight of existence begins to fade. A 100-year-old man trapped under debris during an earthquake remained calm, not because he was brave, but because he knew he would survive. A corporate executive made ruthless decisions, destroying thousands of livelihoods without a flicker of guilt. Time would erase the backlash. It always did. The fear of death had once shaped morality. It gave moments value. It made love urgent. It made sacrifice meaningful. Without death, emotions dulled. Brain scans revealed something chilling. The nanobots repairing human cells were also stabilizing neural pathways. Trauma responses weakened. Survival instincts flattened. Even grief diminished. Humanity was becoming biologically stable and emotionally cold. Families noticed the change first. Parents who had taken the serum no longer cried at tragedies. Soldiers returned from war with no signs of psychological damage, but also no signs of compassion. Society grew efficient, productive, orderly, and crime shifted in strange ways. There were fewer murders after all. Killing an immortal body was nearly impossible, but cruelty increased. Power struggles intensified. With endless time, revenge could stretch for decades. A silent, slow-burning dystopia emerged. Among the scientists who helped create the serum was a young neural engineer named Zara Rahman. At first, she believed she was saving humanity. She had watched her mother die from a degenerative disease years earlier. The serum was her rebellion against helplessness. But as global reports accumulated, she began analyzing deeper neurological data. What she discovered terrified her. The nanobots were not just repairing cells. They were suppressing natural neural decay processes tied to emotional intensity. The human brain evolved with mortality as a boundary. Remove the boundary, and the system rewrites itself. Immortality wasn't just stopping death, it was slowly rewriting what it meant to feel human. Zara confronted the board of NeoLife Corporation. They dismissed her concerns. Productivity was up, global GDP had doubled, wars had decreased, markets were stable. Humanity has never been more successful, they told her, but success without soul felt hollow. Then, tipping point. A massive industrial accident occurred in one of the floating energy plants above the Pacific. Thousands were injured, none died, and no one cried. Families visited loved ones in recovery chambers with calm expressions. News anchors reported the event with mechanical neutrality. Social media moved on within hours. The world had lost its ability to mourn. That was the moment Zara made her decision. If death had given life meaning, then death had to return. She began secretly developing a counter-virus, another set of nanobots designed to deactivate the immortality serum. It wouldn't kill people instantly. It would simply restore natural aging, restore vulnerability, restore the possibility of an ending. It was the hardest choice of her life. To save humanity, she had to reintroduce mortality. Late one night, inside a dim laboratory lit only by holographic screens, Zara uploaded the counter program into the global medical network. Her hands trembled as the progress bar moved forward. 10, 40%, 70%. She whispered, "I'm sorry." 100%. The signal spread silently across satellites and data centers. Around the world, the nanobots received new instructions. At first, nothing happened. Then, weeks later, subtle changes appeared. An elderly man noticed gray strands returning to his hair. A former immortal felt genuine fear before crossing a busy street. A mother cried uncontrollably when her child fell and scraped her knee. Hospitals reopened, not as places of endless maintenance, but as places of fragile hope. Months passed. The first natural death in over a decade occurred quietly in a small apartment overlooking a glowing city. The family gathered around the bed. They held hands, they cried. And for the first time in years, their tears felt real. The world reacted with shock at first. Some called it betrayal. Others called it liberation. Birth rates stabilized. Political systems restructured. Leadership rotated again. Young innovators finally had space to rise. But more importantly, something invisible returned. Urgency. Artists painted like time mattered. Lovers held each other a little tighter. People forgave faster. They risked more. They cherished ordinary sunsets. Life became uncertain again, and in that uncertainty, it became precious. Zara never publicly admitted what she had done. She watched the sunrise one morning from the rooftop of her laboratory. The city below was still futuristic, still bright with technology, but it felt warmer. Because immortality had promised eternity, but mortality restored meaning. So, let me ask you, if tomorrow someone offered you a life without death, would you take it? Or is it the ticking clock that makes every second worth living?